I bought this red 2009 Dodge Challenger SE a few months ago as a bit of a project car. I've wanted one since the redesign hit the market, and finally had the opportunity to get one when I convinced my wife it would make an excellent second vehicle. But as gorgeous as it is, I have to admit that it's missing some quality of life upgrades that are present on newer vehicles. Bluetooth and a backup camera were the first safety features I wanted to add. So, I swapped out the original deck for this JVC one and installed a camera on the back license plate. While most of the car is immaculate, there was some weird damage that ran down the trim around the original radio and down onto the radio itself. Based on the location of the damage, I think perhaps there was a vent clip air freshener that leaked and took off the original paint. So, I installed a carbon fiber overlay over top of the damaged panel. The only problem? Well, it was designed for a Challenger that had seat heaters. But that gave me an opportunity. Why not turn those two missing plugs into something useful? One can be a USB port and the other can be an on-off switch for the subwoofer I'm going to install. After all, if you're having a midlife crisis, might as well go all the way. And 3D printing's going to make this a lot easier. The other opportunity for 3D printing is for the front license plate. This car came from Quebec, where front license plates aren't needed. They are, however, required here in Ontario. And I don't relish the idea of putting holes into a perfectly good bumper. So I'm going to design a clamp that'll go onto the lower grille and hold the license plate in place with no modifications required. For the inserts to hold the USB port and the toggle switch for the sub, I started by using my calipers to take measurements of the holes. I then created a small 3D printed template that I could use to trace out onto the plastic so I would know how big the holes for our 3D printed parts have to be. From there, I took the faceplate and began to drill holes along the lines, trying my best to not overlap the lines. We just need to get close and we'll get more precise later. I know it looks like a kindergartner did it, but you just gotta trust the process. Once the holes were done and I was able to break out the centerpieces, then it was time to take a set of files and clean it up. And after lots of filing, it now looks like a 4th grader did it. But that's good enough. Our 3D printed inserts are going to hide a world of hurt. The inserts are printed in PETG, which gives it a little more flexibility than PLA and, more importantly, a much higher temperature resistance. In this case, resistance is not futile. There we go. That looks pretty good. The other thing that was missing from this model of Challenger that was included in the higher trim versions is steering wheel audio controls. Luckily, I found this wireless set that can be affixed to the steering wheel with automotive tape, and then there's a wireless receiver that connects to the back of the deck to make it all work. It's not perfect, but it's perfectly functional, and it looks relatively clean. For the subwoofer, the installation is a lot easier than on other vehicles. We just need to run the audio signal wire and the power signal. For power, the battery is already in the trunk, which makes what's usually the hardest part of wiring a subwoofer remarkably easy. The bracket I designed for the license plate is made up of a few pieces. There's 2 inserts that go behind the grille, 2 other pieces that screw into those pieces from the front, and then the plate holder that attaches to the 2 of those. To make sure the connection between the 2 is as strong as possible, I used brass heat inserts for M6 screws that'll melt into the plastic and provide much tougher threads than screwing into the plastic alone. After all, we don't want to risk it coming apart driving down the highway. Now, for demonstration purposes, and because I needed this plate installed before I got a ticket, I ended up installing it in the upper grille. Now, this is very temporary, and it was still winter when this was filmed, so it's cold enough that I don't have to worry about overheating. The pieces that hold the bracket from behind the grille need some adjustment to fit into the smaller lower grille, but for now, that'll keep the fuzz off me. It's very solid, and let's face it, the mount probably weighs more than the plate does. I absolutely hate how it looks up top, but we'll get it moved again in the very near future. Overall, this ended up being an excellent demonstration of how 3D printing can be used to fix a non-conventional problem. In my case, it makes the USB port and toggle switch look much more streamlined and integrated. And while there are kits available to mount your license plate the same way off of Amazon, AliExpress, and eBay, I always enjoy a good 3D printing challenge. But this won't be the end of the modifications, so don't be surprised if you see the Challenger pop back up from time to time on the channel. For now, I've spent enough time on changes. It's time to drive. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and until next time, stay creative.